Welcome to the Bookman's Corner. I'm your host, Lois Lindstrom. Is your child being bullied? Maybe your child is the bully. Our guest author today, Don Pertucca, has written a book that discusses the growing bullying and its impact on our growing suicide rate. Thank you for joining us today, Don.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll discuss Don's latest book, Make the Bullies Pay and Help Us Lower Our Suicide Rate. Don has outlined the bullying problem in our schools and life and proposed some strategies to control it and combat it. Don Pertucca is a graduate of Indiana State University and has a BS in exercise physiology and a BS in accounting from Purdue University. She's now a freelance author in Illinois. And so great that you joined us and drove all the way here from Illinois. And I loved your book, and I think it's so important that people know more about this incredible problem. What inspired you to write it?
Mostly because I've always been an emotional person who cries easily. I get my feelings hurt easily. And my whole life I've been wondering, why are so many people mean? And even when you speak up, you're assertive and you tell people, I can't handle the way you're treating me, sometimes they just keep doing it. So I used to try to figure out why people were mean. I'd go to the library and read about it. And when I was 43 years old, my left eye started hurting. I went to the eye doctor, and he told me I have a non-cancerous brain tumor in my left thalamus.
Ooh.
I did research on what the left thalamus does, and it controls your emotions, most of your senses, and your ability to fall asleep and stay asleep. So after I knew that, I realized that's always going to be my biggest strategy in life. So since then, I've been trying to figure out, how do I deal with these people who are treating me too rough, and I have a hard time getting my mood back up once I'm upset. So I try to stay away for a long time, and you can't stay away from them all the time. So you have to learn how to interact with them.
Exactly. Well, you know, you wrote in the first line of your book that between 2001 and 2020, the suicide rate in the United States climbed 33%. I was shocked. Americans are more likely, or more than twice as likely, to die from suicide than they are to die from someone shooting them or killing them. And online bullying has increased dramatically since 2006, which is the same time our suicide rate increased dramatically. Are there any government studies linking the bullying rates with the increased suicide rates?
I don't know of any government studies that specifically reviewed that, but there are two doctors from Yale University who did an extensive study. They used subjects in 13 different countries, and they determined sometimes people commit suicide when they weren't being bullied, but most of the time, when someone commits suicide, they were being bullied.
Amazing. Now, where did you attend college, and what was your major, and what do you do professionally?
I went to Indiana State University from 1981 to 1985, walked away with a Bachelor of Science degree in exercise physiology. I was going to own my own gym.
Very good.
But pretty soon I realized I have a hard time dealing with difficult customers, difficult employees, difficult bosses. And eventually I realized I can't really own my own business. I'm going to have to figure something else out. So now my husband and I flip homes.
Very good. And that can be very profitable. Now, but your book title is Make the Bullies Pay and Help Us Lower Our Suicide Rate. How has it been received by the public? Because you did self-publish this, didn't you?
Yes. I've had the 99-cent sale on Amazon, and people bought it. And a lot of the people who bought it started telling me stories about when they were bullied, or where their kids are being bullied, or people they knew were being bullied, and some of them told me about people they knew who committed suicide.
Ooh. So
it's very common.
It's a very serious topic, yes. Well, in your book, you propose bully boxes, and we have a bully box with us that you brought. I'm going to pull it up here. What is a bully box?
Bullying tends to happen the most when people are in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So I feel like schools definitely have to do a better job.
Junior high, basically, junior high school. Okay.
Yes, and I know that if you're a sensitive person, it's hard for you to be mean. It's hard for you to report bullies or speak up to them. So I feel like people need to have anonymous ways of reporting the bullies. And I think if every school had these somewhere where no security cameras were looking at them, maybe in the bathrooms, and every student received blank pages they could fill out to drop in the bully box, a lot more people would report it. And then people who are pre-designated, like psychiatrists, therapists, and counselors, would have keys to the bully box. They would get the notes out periodically and try to resolve the problems.
Excellent. Well, I'll put this down now, but that's a very interesting topic and a way to handle that problem. Now, What are the 5 top reasons that people commit suicide, and is there a study behind this fact?
Yeah, the Center for Disease Control does a lot of research on this.
Okay.
And they've determined that the number one reason young people commit suicide is because of being bullied.
Really?
Number 2 is depression. Number 3 is stress. 4 is anxiety. And 5 is they feel like no one understands them. And I personally watch The Voice and American Idol, and every once in a while you see a story on that show where they say, well, my mom wants me to be a doctor, my dad wants me to be in the medical profession, my brothers and sisters all did that, but I want to be a singer. Sometimes people are born into a family where they're just different than everyone else, and they can't be like everyone else. They have to be themselves.
Yes, exactly. And now, what are the top 5 leading causes of death in our country?
Number 1 is heart attack.
Heart attack?
696,000 people a year pass away from heart attacks every year. Number 2 is cancer, 605,000 people every year. COVID-19 is at 417,000. Accidental injuries, that's 225,000 a year. Stroke is 163,000. We're losing people to suicide between 2016 and 2022. About 45 to 48,000 people a year from suicide.
Amazing, that many. Man, 45,000 a year. Now, well, let's discuss young people and suicide. I read in your book that suicide is the 3rd leading cause of death among young people between the ages of 10 to 14 years old that were given a higher risk of committing suicide. I mean, what are some of the warning signs that may be a clue that a young person is considering suicide?
First of all, age. 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, very difficult years. Usually when someone's thinking about it, they talk about harming themselves. They also are more likely to abuse substances like drugs and alcohol. Their moods are likely to go up and down very quickly. They're likely to withdraw from friends, family, usual activities. They might collect weapons.
Well, you know, some children actually state they're considering suicide, and you state that one should take them very seriously and get them help immediately. I mean, what else can parents do?
There is a phone number called the Suicide Hotline Crises. It's 988. You can dial 988 at any time.
Really?
To try to get help. It's free.
This is national.
Yes.
National service. Okay.
Dial 988 and you could get help right away if you're thinking about it or if you know someone who's thinking about it. Also, a lot of states have, if you dial 211, someone will help you. If you're being bullied, they might contact the bully and get involved.
Amazing.
I don't think it's available in every state, but a lot of states have that now, and a lot of people don't know about it.
Exactly. That's really important. And it was also interesting to read that 5 states in the United States had the lowest suicide rates. And what are those states, and why do you think they had such a low rate of suicide?
It's the rural areas, which shocked me, but I think it's because they don't always have options of someplace else to go if where they're living is not a good fit for them. Sometimes they're different than the other people they're around.
So you're saying that the 5 states with the highest rate of suicide are the rural states?
Yes.
And the ones with the lowest rate are more urban?
Yes, and I've read that one of the reasons this is because the urban areas tend to have a lot more places where people get help from counselors and therapists and other people who they can talk to if they have a problem. I think if you're in a rural community, sometimes no one understands you, no one knows where you're coming from because you're just not like everyone else.
Exactly. How does one persuade a school system that by reducing bullying, you can eliminate many suicides by young people?
If you have any common sense at all, it's obvious that bullying people causes suicide. There's a lot of studies done by the Center for Disease Control. If you talk to the students and ask them their opinion, they'll tell you. And another thing schools need to understand is bullies tend to look for someone who's an easy target. So kids should not be alone. There's even a girl in a school in California who was getting bullied, and she created a Sit With Us program where online you could just go on and say you want to sit with someone because you don't want to be alone. And that allowed her to get groups of people who are getting picked on to eat together instead of being alone. So just don't travel alone if you're getting bullied because you're an easy target if you're alone.
Very good point. Very good point. Now, why is it difficult for people to report those that are bullying others? I mean, is there a problem if someone wants to report a bully anonymously?
Yeah, a lot of people are afraid the bullying will get worse if they report it.
Really?
Yeah.
And have you seen that happening? I mean, have you talked to people and have they reported it and all of a sudden it's worse?
Yes, even women who are getting abused, a lot of times they don't report their husband because they're afraid he'll kill them or do something seriously harm them. So they're afraid sometimes they have to escape on their own without telling anyone.
Wow, wow. Now, you wrote that some schools have had trouble with kids who have a temper meltdown, and they are very upset, and yet but they've come up with a unique solution to this problem. What was the solution?
There are schools that are separate from the regular school. That's not for kids who have behavioral problems. They're for kids who have the ADHD and the oppositional defiance disorder and the depression and anxiety. And they need a meltdown room where they can go and sit if they're upset and get calmed down. They need some way to communicate with the staff that they're having trouble. And one of the schools came up with a system where there's a yellow ribbon and a red ribbon at every child's desk. And if they feel like they're starting to get angry, they hold up the yellow ribbon, and right away the teacher will take them to the calm down room.
Wow.
If they feel like they're about to explode, they hold up the red ribbon, and right away they get escorted somewhere and someone can talk to them if they want to talk to someone.
What a creative,
and it was very effective.
Very creative way to handle that problem. In your view, should the system be used for people who are getting bullied and have lost hope? I mean, how do you restore hope for people that have lost hope from being bullied?
Part of it is, I think some people expect to get along with everyone,
Yes.
but we don't all fit. We're not ever going to get along with everyone. Everyone's born with a different personality type, a different temperament, and you have to find someone who is a good fit for you, who you feel comfortable talking to. And a lot of times that involves just joining a club of something you're interested in, and you find other people who are interested in the same things you are. For instance, for me, photography is one of my hobbies, and if I go to a photography group, I find people who I feel comfortable with.
Sure, sure.
So sometimes you just have to make an effort to find someone who you feel comfortable talking with, because a lot of times people don't understand what you're talking about. A lot of people just think it's okay to treat people aggressively and roughly, and it's not.
Yes, yes.
So you have to find someone who understands you.
You mentioned there are different types of personalities out there, but what are the three most difficult personalities that people have to deal with, you think? What are the three most difficult ones?
In my opinion, it's the narcissists, the sociopaths, and the psychopaths. And believe it or not, when MRIs are done of their brains, the area of the brain that controls compassion and empathy, they're either dead or extremely underactive. Those people aren't able to care about other people.
So when you do a brain scan, you can actually see if a person has compassion or not, right?
Yes.
That's incredible.
And it's hard to get those people to get the brain scan because they think they're perfect and there's nothing wrong with them. But really, they don't care about other people, and they never will.
And they never will. And so that's the situation. But can they take drugs? Can they take therapy? I mean, can they have therapy? I mean, can it be reversed?
Unfortunately, it can't.
It can't?
If you're a psychopath or a sociopath or a narcissist, that's how you're always going to be. There are things that can help you not be as depressed or help calm you down. There's a lot of prescription medicines you can take, but a lot of them refuse to take the medicines.
Yes, of course. Yeah, right. Well, you also wrote that you think there should be a bullying management class, and people who are caught bullying should be required to attend these classes. What would that cost, and how would you sell that idea to a politician or on the state or federal level to try to implement?
I think it shouldn't cost anything. I think the tax money that we spend, and a lot of us spend a lot of tax dollars, should cover that somehow. That's my opinion, because a lot of people are getting bullied, don't have funds for something like that, and they need the help.
Wow.
And a lot of them don't want to go to something like that on their own because they don't want people to know they're getting picked on.
Yes.
But they should understand that it's not just the people who appear to be an easy target that get picked on. Just like in the wild where the animals are, the weakest and the strongest get picked on the most. The ones who fit in or the middle of the herd don't get picked on nearly as much. So it's not just the ones who look like they're weak, it's the ones who people are jealous of.
Yeah, yes.
If they think you're achieving more than they are, or if you're earning more money, or they think your life is easier than theirs, they're going to try to knock you down.
Exactly, exactly. Now, what can educators and community leaders do to discourage bullying and thereby reduce the suicide rate? Do you think that you feel like they should spend the money for these classes then? That would be the first thing you would propose, right?
Yes, and if there's a bully who keeps picking on people, even after they've been caught and warned, if they keep doing it, they may need to be removed from that environment. Why should the victims be suffering the consequences when the bully is the one who's causing the problems? I think schools need to have definite
rules, right?
Yeah, deciding what's going to happen. Maybe that person will have to be expelled from school or be sent to a school for kids who have behavioral problems.
Right. Well, I want to share a personal story. When I was 14, I was tall and awkward, and when I went into the restroom, and this girl looked at me and she goes, "I don't like the way you look, and I'm going to beat you up." And I was like, "Oh my gosh," and she was very, very strong and very and had very mean eyes. And so, and I raced out of the bathroom, and I thought, I can't go to the bathroom anymore. It's just too frightening. I'm gonna get beaten. She's gonna get me. And my mother was a nurse. I told her about this, and she called the principal, and she said, "I must meet with you tomorrow. We've got to solve this problem because my daughter will have kidney problems if she can't use the bathroom." and so I think that was, and of course the principal took her seriously, and he did meet with that bully and her mother, and it never happened again. But in reading your book, I noticed that a lot of times victims of bullies were not helped. The principal would just ignore it.
Yes.
That's very sad.
Yes. One of the people I interviewed said because she wasn't someone who was helping raise the school's GPA because she had a little trouble with learning, that the staff wasn't interested in helping her. But if someone had a high grade point average, the school would rush to help them. It shouldn't be like that.
It should not be like that. And the other point that you made in this book was the fact that if you had any kind of physical disability or emotional or mental disability, you were picked on terribly by the bullies, right?
Yeah, I've even done searches on the internet for videos of handicapped people who were getting bullied. Mm-hmm. It was something that made me cry. It was so horrible. It was disgusting.
What can be done to help these people who have not a chance if they're in a wheelchair or they're limping or whatever it is? What can they do?
From things I've heard, I think sometimes the handicapped people shouldn't even be in the same school with the other students.
Really?
Yes, because those students sometimes just treat them so badly. And some of the schools even match up students in the regular population to pair up with them, and when people are looking, they'll act like they're best buddies, and then as soon as the program's over with, they don't ever talk to that person again. And it's heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking. It's just, we need a total change of personality here and care going forward. Well, how has the internet facilitated the increase of bullying and suicide, you think?
It used to be people only got bullied when they left their home. Yeah, some people get bullied at home, but most people are getting bullied at school. Now, people get bullied 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and a lot of times it's people going on someone's website, stealing their pictures, creating a fake website, acting like it's that person's website, and then sending hate mail out to their friends. And then all of a sudden their friends are like, "Why did you send this to me? This is horrible."
Yes.
And then you have to explain the whole thing. And this stuff happens all the time.
My goodness. And so what can be done to stop that? I mean, can people talk to their internet providers and see what can be done to stop this?
A lot of the internet providers are in other countries, so it's hard to contact them and communicate with them.
Okay.
A lot of states in the United States didn't have programs yet to try to get involved and stop the bullies, but now that it's 2023, a lot of states do have police that can get involved in this sort of thing.
Really?
So sometimes you can call the police and get them to help you try to get someone else's website taken down if they're picking on you.
That's good. That's good to know. Now, there seems to be there's been a big leap of scientific exploration of the human mind. Do you think that can be applied to reduce bullying in the future?
Oh yeah, in fact, myself, my daughter, and my husband all had EEG tests done of our brains, and we found out exactly where our brains are overactive.
Really?
And then you get these neurofeedback treatments, which are expensive right now. I think those need to be a lot more affordable and covered by healthcare, because supposedly they can help reduce ADHD and help reduce anxiety and depression and a lot of different things. The reason I had it done is because I learned I have a brain tumor in my left thalamus.
Oh, yeah.
Which controls emotions and your ability to fall asleep and stay asleep. Anyway, I was trying to figure out how I could start getting more sleep. And they said, oh, neurofeedback treatments can help you get better sleep. So I did it, and I brought my daughter, who we adopted, and she has ADHD, depression, and anxiety. And they told me her brain's 9 times busier than typical female her age, and she did need to get calmed down. Anyway.
Did it help her? Did she take the class?
She
The
did.
therapy, I mean?
And when her brain was examined, they said it's overactive all over the place. My brain is overactive in 2 places.
Okay.
One is the creative part, which I knew, and the other one is holding grudges. When someone upsets you, stay mad for a very long time.
Yes, yes.
And that's how my brain is. I can't really change it. I just have to adapt with what I'm working with.
Very interesting, very interesting. Now, what are the top 3 things that parents do that harm the development of their child?
I've heard a lot of different studies about what causes narcissism and psychopaths and sociopaths, and most of the time they say it's genetic, but there are 2 environments that can cause it. And one is when the parent or the parent of a child overly compliments their child and tells them they're great and tells them they're better than everyone else all the time, so much so that the child believes that they should be better than everyone else.
Yes, yes.
They can develop narcissistic tendencies, but also when the parents are too mean to their children, the children have to develop coping tendencies
Yes.
and learn how to react to people who are being mean to them all the time, and they can develop narcissistic tendencies, but it tends to be more you were born with it.
Now, what are some phrases you might want to say to a bully? If someone is bothering you, what would you say to them?
Me personally, it's different for everyone, but me personally, I've had karate lessons in self-defense and taekwondo and all that.
Good for you.
And I've been athletic since I was 3 years old, so I let them know, by the way, I know taekwondo and I can write a very effective letter, and I know how to report people these days. I used to just take it, but not anymore. I have reported people. When someone upsets me, and I'm upset for half a day and crying for 4 hours, I report people.
And then is action taken? I mean, after you make the report, does something happen? Do you get results?
I personally do, but I'm someone who has to think everything through before I can react. I don't blow up or talk right away when someone upsets me. I have to think everything through and analyze it, and then I don't say anything to anyone, and then I go home and I type a letter and start sending it places. And I'm one of those people who no one even suspects of writing a letter and sending it in, but I have sent letters to the United States Department of Labor. I've sent letters to the Illinois Department of Labor. I've sent letters to Equal Opportunity Employment Commission, or
So if you have a boss that's bullying you,
Yes.
the Department of Labor is the agency to contact then,
and
right?
the head office
The head office.
too. I mean, I send several letters. I don't just send one. I want to get the job done, and I have learned that some people have gotten transferred.
Good. Excellent. I was very concerned about the fact that you have to that there's so much bullying going on in the office. What have you experienced that, and have you in jobs that you've had, and what can be done with a mean boss, because that's your livelihood.
Yeah. One time, my husband went to jury duty. He came home and I asked him how it was, and he said, anytime you have 50 people in a room, at least one of them is going to be obnoxious.
That's right. That's good.
And I've actually learned that 1 out of 25 people is a sociopath, so it's really, anytime you've got a room with 25 people, one of them is going to be obnoxious most of the time.
Right.
And either you need to try to stay away from that person, not interact with that person. If you have to, you can either report them or try to transfer out of the office yourself, but sometimes you can't. Sometimes
That's right.
that's the job you have to have, and that's the income you need to have. So that's when I think it's really important to report people anonymously, and I've learned that you can report people online using fake names and fake email addresses. That goes through.
Really?
Yes, I have gone on websites and reported people with a fake name and a fake email address. No one ever found out it was me, and action
Amazing.
gets taken.
That's really cool. That's amazing. Do you plan to give talks on this subject, or are you going to write another book on this? Or are you?
I have written a fiction book about bullying.
Have you?
I actually wrote that one before I wrote this one, but I never had it published. I decided this was going to happen because just too many people. And I when I was doing research, I found the suicide rates and it's like this is a priority. I have to get this done. I want to go on a lot of radio shows and television shows and report this because I feel like I have the ability to help a lot of people.
And it is underreported, I think.
Oh yeah,
and the newspapers aren't covering it.
Police departments have very low budgeting for suicide investigation.
Do they really?
And
I didn't know
it's
that.
twice as popular than homicide, but police departments have a lot of funding for investigating homicides.
Yes.
And it's not right.
It's not right. It's not right. And it's obviously a growing problem in our country. Where can our viewers find your book to purchase it?
Amazon.com.
Amazon.com.
Yes.
And did you try to get the book published by a publisher before you self-published? Did you?
I thought about it, but it's very expensive. I didn't want to spend that kind of money. And I found out it's a lot less expensive to do it on Amazon.com. And I met someone who had already had a book published on Amazon.com, and they told me exactly who to talk to. And I loved the lady I worked with, and it's worked out for me.
Perfect, perfect. Dawn, well, it's been great having you here today on the Bookman's Corner. Thank you so much for joining us.
Great
and
being here.
And I hope when you write your next book, you'll come back and see us again. And I also want to say that my producer, Charles Goolsby, told me that today is our, we have been in producing this show for 35 years in Arlington, and very pleased to be a part of this. And thank you so much to the crew and to the staff for everything they do to help us produce this show, Bookman's Corner. And we look forward to seeing you. Thank you so much for watching, and we look forward to seeing you next month when we have a new edition of the Bookman's Corner. Thanks again.